Let me take you back to a moment that changed everything for me. A moment I'll never forget, no matter how hard I try. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning, the kind where sunlight streams through the windows and paints golden streaks across the floor. My neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, a spry 76-year-old who had always prided herself on her independence, decided to step out for her daily newspaper. The front door opened onto a small porch with just 3 steps leading down to the sidewalk. A mere 10 centimeters per step. Nothing anyone would think twice about. But that day, as she reached for the top step, her foot faltered midair. She hesitated, wobbled slightly, and then she fell. The sound of her body hitting the ground echoed like thunder in the quiet neighborhood. Her leg twisted awkwardly beneath her, and when the paramedics arrived, they confirmed what we all feared, a broken hip. For most people, this might seem like a temporary setback, a few weeks in recovery, some physical therapy, and life goes on. But not for Mrs. Thompson. What followed was a nightmare none of us could have anticipated. For 3 agonizing months, she lay confined to a hospital bed, her once vibrant spirit dimmed by painkillers and despair. Doctors warned us early on that her age made recovery particularly challenging. "It's unlikely she'll walk again without assistance," one doctor said bluntly, his words slicing through the sterile air of the hospital room. Those words haunted me long after I left. They weren't just talking about mobility, they were talking about freedom, dignity, independence. And for Mrs. Thompson, who had lived alone for years, it felt like the end of the world. When she finally returned home, things only grew worse. Simple tasks became Herculean challenges. Getting out of bed required 2 people to help lift her. Climbing stairs? Impossible. Even standing for more than a minute left her gasping for breath. Her children tried their best, taking turns visiting her every day, but the strain was evident on their faces too. Guilt gnawed at them constantly. Guilt for not being able to do enough. Guilt for having lives of their own. Guilt for watching their mother deteriorate before their eyes. But perhaps the hardest part wasn't the physical limitations. It was the emotional toll. One evening over tea, Mrs. Thompson confided in me. "I never thought I'd be a burden," she whispered, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. "All my life, I have taken care of others. Now look at me. I can't even stand on my own 2 feet." Her voice cracked under the weight of her sorrow. In that moment, I saw fear. Not just fear of falling again, but fear of losing herself entirely. Fear of becoming invisible, irrelevant, helpless. And then there were the nights when sleep eluded her. I'd often find her sitting by the window, staring blankly into the darkness. "Do you know what scares me the most?" she asked one night, her gaze fixed somewhere far away. "The thought of spending the rest of my life in a wheelchair, of never feeling the wind on my face or walking barefoot on grass again." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just about a broken bone. It was about shattered dreams, stolen freedoms, a future robbed of joy. Mrs. Thompson's story isn't unique. It's tragically common. Every year, millions of older adults suffer similar fates, their lives upended by falls that could have been prevented. Falls are the leading cause of injury-related deaths among seniors, yet many people dismiss them as inevitable consequences of aging. "Oh, it happens to everyone eventually," they say, brushing off concerns with casual indifference. But let me tell you something. It doesn't have to happen. Not if we take action now. You see, Our legs are more than just limbs. They're the foundation of our existence. They carry us through life, supporting not only our bodies but also our dreams and aspirations. When they weaken, we don't just lose mobility, we lose control over our destiny. That's why today I'm going to share with you three powerful foods and simple habits that can help keep your legs strong, flexible, and ready to support you through life's adventures. Because trust me, the alternative is unthinkable. Now that we've explored the alarming reality of leg weakness through Mrs. Thompson's story, let's delve deeper into why this happens. And trust me, it's not just about aging. The truth is far more sobering. Did you know that 60% of people over the age of 70 suffer from debilitating leg weakness? That's more than half of our elderly population rendered unable to live independently, all because their legs, the foundation of mobility, have given out on them. It's a staggering statistic, one that should send shivers down your spine if you're hoping for an active and independent future. The culprit behind this epidemic has a name: sarcopenia. You might not have heard of it before, but its effects are devastating. Imagine your muscles as a fortress built brick by brick over decades of activity, strength, and resilience. Now picture sarcopenia as a relentless flood, surging in without warning, washing away entire walls of that fortress until nothing remains but rubble. At first, the damage seems minimal: a slight wobble when climbing stairs, a bit of fatigue after standing too long. But over time, the floodwaters rise higher, drowning chunks of your strength until even basic movements become Herculean tasks. Let me share with you a story that will stay with you long after today. A cautionary tale about James, a former marathon runner who once conquered races spanning 42 kilometers a day. For years, he was unstoppable, his legs carrying him across finish lines around the world, while earning admiration from peers and fans alike. His life revolved around running. It defined him. But then came the gradual decline, a creeping weakness that began in his late 50s. He dismissed it at first, chalking it up to getting older. After all, everyone slows down eventually, right? Wrong. By the time James turned 70, the flood of sarcopenia had swept away so much of his muscle mass that he could barely take a single step without assistance. The man who once ran marathons now struggled to shuffle across his living room floor. I remember visiting James shortly after he stopped running altogether. He sat slumped in his recliner, staring blankly at the wall where photos of his races still hung, a cruel reminder of the life he'd lost. "It's not just my legs," he confessed, his voice trembling with emotion. "It's everything. I used to be someone people looked up to. Now I'm just helpless." Those words cut deep because they echoed a fear many of us share. Losing physical strength means losing pieces of ourselves. Our identity, our independence, our very essence, it's all tied to our ability to move freely. And when that freedom is stripped away, what remains? But here's the most terrifying part. Sarcopenia doesn't strike suddenly. It begins quietly, almost imperceptibly, often starting as early as your 40s. From that point onward, you lose approximately 1% of your muscle mass each year. When you reach your 60s, that rate doubles. Without intervention, the floodwaters of sarcopenia can sweep away decades of strength in what feels like the blink of an eye. Your legs, which bear the brunt of daily wear and tear, are the first casualties. Every step you take, every chair you rise from, every movement you make, they all rely on those muscles. And when sarcopenia strikes, it hits these areas hardest because they're the most used and therefore the most vulnerable. Margaret's journey, which I mentioned earlier, illustrates both the tragedy and hope inherent in this process. She too faced the devastating impact of weakened legs, struggling to climb stairs and fearing she'd never regain her independence. Yet, unlike James, Margaret chose to fight back. She recognized the warning signs early enough to take action, incorporating nutrient-rich foods into her diet and committing to simple exercises. Her transformation proves that while sarcopenia may be inevitable, its consequences aren't set in stone. With the right tools and mindset, we can fortify our foundations before the flood overwhelms us. Still, the question remains, how many of us are willing to confront this reality head on? How many of us will wait until it's too late, like James, or take proactive steps like Margaret? The choice is ours to make, but beware, procrastination comes at a steep cost. Every year we delay addressing muscle loss brings us closer to the brink of dependency. And once you cross that threshold, clawing your way back becomes exponentially harder. So let's talk solutions, not tomorrow, not next week, but today. Because the sooner you act, the better your chances of staying strong, mobile, and independent. In the following sections, I'll reveal specific strategies to combat sarcopenia and protect your legs from its devastating effects. But for now, I urge you to reflect on your own situation. Are you noticing subtle signs of weakness? Do everyday tasks feel slightly more challenging than they used to? If so, don't dismiss them as normal aging. This is your body sending up flares, warning you of the storm ahead. Will you heed the call? A. Fatty fish, a narrow escape from ignoring advice. Let me take you back to a moment that could have changed everything, or rather almost didn't. Sarah had been struggling with leg weakness for months, her knees buckling under the weight of even the simplest tasks. After consulting her doctor, she left the office clutching a list of foods meant to rebuild muscle and restore vitality. At the top of that list, fatty fish like salmon and mackerel. But as soon as she arrived home, doubt crept in. The thought of cooking something so unfamiliar, and yes, so fishy, made her stomach churn. She hesitated, staring at the unopened package of salmon on her counter. "What if I hate it?" she muttered aloud. For 2 days, the fish sat untouched in her refrigerator, its potential wasted as Sarah wrestled with her fears. Then came the tipping point. One evening, after another grueling attempt to climb her staircase ended with her gripping the railing for dear life, frustration boiled over into tears. Her son found her there, pale and shaking. He reminded her of the doctor's advice and gently urged her to try salmon, just once. Reluctantly, Sarah agreed. The first bite was an ordeal, the texture unfamiliar, the taste foreign. Yet something inside her whispered, "Keep going." And so she did. Within weeks, Sarah noticed changes so profound they felt almost miraculous. Her morning walks became easier, not just longer, but faster. The burning sensation in her thighs during stair climbs? Gone. By week 6, she no longer needed to clutch the railing. Instead, she bounded up the steps with ease, her legs feeling stronger than they had in years. One sunny afternoon, she decided to jog around the block, an activity she hadn't dared attempt since her 50s. As her feet hit the pavement rhythmically, Sarah laughed aloud, tears streaming down her face. This wasn't just recovery, it was rebirth. The contrast between then and now is staggering. Before incorporating fatty fish into her diet, Sarah could barely shuffle across her living room without gasping for air. Now she runs errands on foot, dances at family gatherings, and even joined a local hiking group. Every step feels like defiance against time itself. Omega-3s truly are magic, working silently beneath the surface to rebuild what age tries to steal away. B. Dairy products, the Robert's battle against despair. Now picture this. Robert, a 68-year-old retiree sitting slumped in his recliner, hands gripping the armrests as he tried and failed to rise. His knees buckled beneath him, refusing to support his weight. Humiliation burned in his chest. Was this really how his golden years would unfold? Would he soon require a wheelchair to navigate through life? These thoughts haunted him daily, gnawing at his spirit until hope seemed like a distant memory. Robert's breaking point came during a visit from his granddaughter, Emily. She was only 10, full of energy and innocence. When she asked him to play catch in the backyard, Robert's heart sank. How could he explain that standing up from his chair felt harder than scaling a mountain? That night, as Emily slept over, Robert lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He knew he couldn't let weakness define him, not while his granddaughter still looked up to him. The next morning, armed with determination, Robert consulted his doctor again. This time he listened intently as the physician emphasized the importance of protein and calcium from dairy products. Skeptical but desperate, Robert committed to drinking a glass of milk every morning and having Greek yogurt each afternoon. At first, progress seemed non-existent. Days turned into weeks, and frustration lingered. But somewhere along the way, tiny victories began to accumulate. One fateful afternoon, 2 months into his new routine, Robert stood up from his chair without assistance for the first time in years. Tears welled in his eyes as he realized the significance of this small act. Over the following weeks, his strength surged. Climbing stairs no longer left him winded, and walking became second nature again. Soon he was taking brisk strolls around the neighborhood, waving proudly at neighbors who had watched his decline. When Emily returned for another visit, Robert surprised her by joining her in a game of tag. They ran and laughed together, sunlight dancing on their faces. In that moment, Robert understood that resilience isn't about never falling. It's about rising every time you do. Dairy didn't just save his legs, it saved his dignity. See, Leafy Greens, Linda's leap of faith. Imagine Linda, a 65-year-old grandmother, lying awake at night, her calves seized in painful cramps. No position offered relief, and sleep remained elusive. Her days were equally bleak. Simple tasks like folding laundry left her legs aching, and gardening, once her favorite pastime, now felt impossible. Physical therapy sessions brought little improvement, and despair crept closer with each passing day. During one particularly disheartening session, her therapist suggested adding leafy greens to her meals. Spinach, kale, collard greens. He listed off casually. Linda scoffed inwardly. Could a few leaves really make a difference? Still clinging to any shred of hope, she decided to give it a shot. The first few days were uninspiring. Kale salads tasted bland, and spinach smoothies required swallowing past a mental block. But Linda persisted, driven by desperation. Then, unexpectedly, transformation struck. After 3 weeks of religiously consuming leafy greens, Linda woke up one morning free of cramps. For the first time in months, her legs felt light, almost buoyant. Encouraged, she pushed herself further. A month later, she attended her granddaughter's yoga class, initially hesitant but eager to prove herself. To everyone's astonishment, including her own, she completed the entire session without faltering. That day marked a turning point. Linda embraced her newfound vitality with gusto. She started jogging lightly, experimented with Pilates, and even signed up for a dance workshop. Her friends marveled at her energy, often asking for her secret. With a smile, Linda would reply, "It's all about the greens." Looking back, Linda sees her journey not as a struggle, but as a revelation. Those leafy greens weren't just food, they were lifelines, pulling her back from the brink of surrender. Today she stands tall, both literally and metaphorically, proof that sometimes the simplest solutions hold the greatest power. Let me tell you about Michael, a man whose life was a testament to the power of small, consistent actions. For over a decade, Michael had been trapped in a cycle of inactivity, convincing himself that rest equaled preservation. At 68, he prided himself on avoiding strain, no walks, no stretching, and certainly no exercise. His reasoning? Why push myself when I can just relax? But beneath this veneer of comfort lay a ticking time bomb. Every day his muscles grew weaker, his joints stiffer, until even the simplest tasks became Herculean challenges. One morning, as Michael attempted to rise from his favorite armchair, something snapped, or rather, gave way. His legs buckled under him like twigs caught in a storm, leaving him sprawled on the floor, heart pounding with panic. It wasn't pain or injury that terrified him most. It was the realization that his body had betrayed him. That moment marked the beginning of his transformation. With gritted teeth, Michael vowed to break free from his sedentary lifestyle. He started small, almost imperceptibly. A 5-minute walk around the block turned into 10, then 20. Each step felt agonizing at first, as though his legs were protesting every movement. Yet within weeks, the fog began to lift. The heaviness in his thighs lessened, his strides grew steadier, and climbing stairs no longer left him breathless. By month 3, Michael was jogging lightly, an activity he hadn't dared attempt since his 50s. The change was nothing short of miraculous. What once seemed impossible now felt natural, empowering. His legs, once shackles, had become wings. But physical activity wasn't the only pillar of Michael's recovery. Hydration played an equally critical role, as he learned the hard way during one particularly scorching summer afternoon. Despite knowing better, Michael had neglected to drink enough water throughout the day. By evening, disaster struck. As he reached for a glass on the top shelf, his calf muscles seized violently, locking him in place. Pain shot through his leg like lightning, rooting him to the spot. He collapsed, clutching his cramping muscle, unable to move. Tears streamed down his face as he realized how fragile his newfound strength truly was without proper care. From that day forward, Michael carried a water bottle everywhere, ensuring he never underestimated hydration again. Within days, the difference was palpable. His movements flowed smoothly, his energy soared, and the dreaded cramps vanished completely. If hydration taught Michael resilience, sleep delivered its own brutal lesson. One fateful night, after skimping on rest yet again, Michael woke abruptly to the sound of his alarm. His head throbbed, his limbs felt sluggish, and his vision blurred slightly as he shuffled toward the bathroom. Halfway there, calamity struck. His foot caught on the edge of a rug, sending him crashing to the ground. The impact fractured his ankle, leaving him immobilized and utterly humiliated. Lying there, tears streaming down his cheeks, Michael understood the true cost of exhaustion. A visit to the emergency room confirmed the diagnosis, a broken ankle, and a stern warning from his physician. Your body repairs itself while you sleep. Ignore rest and you're inviting accidents. Determined not to repeat his mistakes, Michael established a calming bedtime routine. He swapped late-night TV for soothing herbal tea and quiet reading. Within weeks, the transformation was remarkable. His legs felt firmer, his reflexes sharper, and his overall vitality renewed. The fall served as a wake-up call, not just for Michael, but for everyone who witnessed his ordeal. Sleep, it turns out, isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. During those precious hours of rest, your body rebuilds muscle tissue, restores balance, and prepares you for the challenges ahead. Neglect it, and you risk far more than grogginess. You gamble with your safety and independence. Michael's journey underscores the importance of daily habits in maintaining strong, healthy legs. Movement keeps muscles engaged and joints supple. Hydration ensures proper function, and sleep allows for essential repair. Together, these practices form a powerful trifecta that supports not only our physical well-being, but also our emotional resilience. Whether it's a short walk, a glass of water, or an extra hour of sleep, every choice matters. And when paired with nutrient-rich foods like fatty fish, dairy, and leafy greens, these habits become even more impactful. So what will your first step be? Will you lace up your sneakers for a morning stroll, pour yourself a tall glass of water, or prioritize rest tonight? Whatever you decide, know this: your legs are counting on you. They've carried you through life's greatest adventures. Now it's your turn to carry them. With determination and care, you can ensure they remain strong, steady, and ready for whatever lies ahead. Let me take you back to a moment that changed everything, not just for one person, but for an entire family. It was late autumn when Sarah stumbled upon this life-changing knowledge about leg health. Fatty fish, dairy, leafy greens, hydration, sleep, and daily movement as the pillars of strength in our legs. At first, she dismissed it as another passing trend until she noticed her mother, Margaret, struggling more each day. Margaret had always been fiercely independent, but recently climbing stairs felt like scaling mountains, and even standing from her favorite armchair required visible effort. One evening, after watching her mother nearly lose her balance while reaching for a book on the top shelf, Sarah froze in horror. She realized something had to be done immediately. That night, Sarah sat down with Margaret and shared everything she'd learned. "Mom," she began, her voice trembling with urgency, "what if we could stop this before it gets worse? What if there's still time?" Margaret hesitated at first, skeptical of change, but Sarah didn't give up. She brought home salmon fillets, prepared creamy Greek yogurt parfaits, and chopped kale into salads. Together, they walked around the block every morning, starting slow, but gradually increasing their pace. Margaret drank water throughout the day, prioritized restful nights, and committed to stretching exercises. The transformation wasn't instant. It never is. But within weeks, subtle signs of improvement emerged. Her steps became steadier, her grip firmer. By spring, Margaret was walking briskly through the park again, laughing as leaves swirled around her feet. But what truly underscored the importance of these changes came later that year during a neighbor's accident. Mrs. Anderson, a woman in her late 60s who lived two doors down, suffered a devastating fall due to weakened legs. Unlike Margaret, Mrs. Anderson hadn't taken preventive measures. Her muscles had deteriorated silently over years, leaving her unable to recover fully. Now confined to a wheelchair, she spent most days gazing out her window, watching others live lives she could no longer participate in. Every time Sarah passed Mrs. Anderson's house, she couldn't help but feel a chill run down her spine. How close had Margaret come to sharing that fate? The contrast between the two women became starkly apparent one sunny afternoon. Margaret, now vibrant and strong, strolled along the sidewalk with her golden retriever tugging gently on its leash. Her laughter echoed as the dog playfully darted ahead, pausing occasionally to sniff flowers or greet passers-by. Just across the street, however, sat Mrs. Anderson by her living room window, her wheelchair casting a long shadow against the wall. Her hands rested limply on her lap, her eyes clouded with sadness as she watched Margaret walk freely outside. That image haunted Sarah, not because it was unfamiliar, but because it was all too real. It served as a grim reminder of how quickly life can shift without proper care. Margaret herself often reflected on how different things might have turned out if Sarah hadn't intervened. During one heartfelt conversation, she admitted, "I used to think weakness was inevitable. I thought giving up activities like gardening or dancing was just part of growing old. But now I see I don't have to surrender my independence, not yet." Tears welled in her eyes as she spoke, not from sorrow, but from gratitude. For Margaret, regaining her strength wasn't just about moving better physically. It was about reclaiming her identity, her joy, her ability to engage fully with life. Meanwhile, Mrs. Anderson's story circulated quietly among neighbors, sparking conversations about prevention and resilience. Some dismissed it as bad luck, while others vowed to act sooner rather than later. Tom, a retired teacher in his early 70s, decided to swap soda for water and started taking daily walks. Evelyn, a grandmother known for her sweet tooth, replaced cookies with spinach smoothies. Inspired by Margaret's recovery, these small shifts rippled outward, touching lives far beyond what anyone anticipated. Yet, despite the progress made by some, the image of Mrs. Anderson remained etched in everyone's minds, a cautionary tale of missed opportunities. Had someone warned her earlier? Could simple dietary adjustments or regular exercise have spared her such hardship? These questions lingered unanswered, fueling both regret and determination among those who knew her. They also reinforced a critical truth: action today determines tomorrow's reality. As winter approached, Margaret continued thriving, her newfound vitality inspiring those around her. She organized weekly group walks, inviting neighbors to join her in exploring nearby parks. On crisp mornings, bundled in scarves and gloves, they laughed together as frost crunched underfoot. Their camaraderie grew alongside their strength, proving that connection and consistency are powerful allies in maintaining health. On the other hand, Mrs. Anderson remained indoors, her world shrinking further with each passing season. While Margaret embraced snowflakes falling softly on her cheeks, Mrs. Anderson stared blankly at gray skies through rain-streaked glass. Her loneliness deepened, compounded by the realization that her choices, or lack thereof, had led her here. Though kind neighbors occasionally visited, bringing books or homemade meals, nothing could replace the freedom she'd lost. In the end, Margaret's journey stood as a beacon of hope, illuminating the path forward for anyone willing to take it. Meanwhile, Mrs. Anderson's plight served as a somber warning, urging others not to wait until it's too late. Life is fragile, unpredictable, and fleeting, but within its fragility lies immense potential. Will you seize control of your destiny, nurturing your body with care and intention? Or will you let complacency steal away your strength bit by bit until only shadows remain? So as you reflect on these stories, ask yourself, which side of the window do you want to be on? Do you want to step boldly into the sunshine, arms swinging freely, heart full of purpose? Or will you resign yourself to watching from afar, trapped behind pains of regret? The choice is yours and yours alone to make.